Welcome back. In the last lecture, we saw uh, how elitist view is. In the last lecture, we saw how elitist scholars like Mosca and Wilfredo Pareto talked about elitist view. But we have to see recent analysis as well, right? We have to see recent analysis as well. Right. So we have to see recent debates in elitist view, and in continuation with recent debates in elitist view, we will understand Robert Michel, his Iron Law of Oligarchy, and Raymond Aron, and his concept of fractured and monolithic elite. So recent debates in elitist view. What is the recent methodology? It is behavioral. It is behavioral, right? And this debate in elitist view was largely for analyzing socialist democracies. Analyzing socialist democracies, right? There are two major views, right? There are two major views. First view is Western. Western scholars say, Western scholars say that true democracies are liberal democracies. Liberal democracies are more democratic, right? This is Western view. And and the socialist view is saying that socialist democracies are real democracies. Both claim that their democracies are real democracies. So socialist claim that socialist democracies are real, right? And socialists say that liberal democracies are liberal democracies are liberal democracies are power of minority over majority, right? And socialists say that socialist democracies are people's democracies, people's democracies, right? This is the idea, right? With respect to nature of democracies, which with respect to nature of democracies, western ideas is western idea is that liberal democracies are more democratic. Socialists say that no, socialist democracies are more real. They are people's democracies, and liberal democracies are power of minority over majority, right? What is minority over majority, I will explain going ahead, right? When we'll see elitist theory of power, right? Or Dull's view, or Mills view, thereby we will understand what do I mean by minority, power of minority over majority. The behavioral methodology you can understand by why behavioral and how behavioral methodology was used, because behavioralists like Robert Dahl, behavioralists behavioralists like Robert Dahl were there, right? Then 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 CW Mills is also some kind of behavioralist, right? Charles Lindblom is there. So behavioralism had a big impact on pluralist theory of power democracy, right? Then we have to understand, and I will connect pluralist theory of democracy with these scholars, right? So we'll understand views of Robert Michels. Views of Robert Michels in his book Political Parties. Right? In his book Political Parties, Robert Mitchell gives his concept of Iron Law of Oligarchy. What does Iron Law of Oligarchy say? It observes that money and power get concentrated. Money and power gets concentrated. As simple as that. What is Iron Law of Oligarchy? That money and power gets concentrated. Right? That's very simple to understand. What is Iron Law of Oligarchy? That money and power gets concentrated. What is oligarchy? Few wealthy individuals have all the money with them. Right? This is oligarchy. Right? So money and power get concentrated. Iron Law of Oligarchy. As simple as that. Then how does he get to such conclusion? How does he get to such conclusion? He get to such conclusion as he studied internal functioning of internal functioning of socialist parties, right? Socialist parties. As we have studied Lenin. How is party structure of Lenin? In his book Capitalism, Imperialism, Higher Stage of Capitalism, he suggests that he suggests that the the Socialist Party are with broad base and with pyramidical shape. Base gives agenda to the leadership, and leadership gives program of action to the broad base, right? This is the idea of broad based political party as given by Lenin, right? So there is role of both. There is role of both people and 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 leadership, right? Both are canonically involved. Both are involved in functioning of party, right? Right? But is this true? Is this true? Right? Does people even give agenda? Does people have any say in functioning of Communist Party? No. Right? Though Lenin even though started might have started with good intentions of real diffusion of power, but that happen? Does that happen? No. No. Political parties eventually political parties eventually do only power politics, right? Power politics, right? Parties will come to power for development, right? For development, for goals, right? Initial premise for power is development. Initial premise for power are long term goals, right? But development and long term goals gets subsided, right? There is displacement of goal after a point of time. Displacement of goals after a point of time. I will explain this each and every time with a proper example. Don't worry. Right. So initially, political parties start with a goal, but eventually there is displacement of goal, and 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 the party function only for perpetuation of power. Perpetuation of power. Right. Let's get ourselves to Bangladesh. Right. Go to Bangladesh. Let's understand with perspective of Sheikh Hasina Mujibur Rahman and her family. Right. Her family. Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, as he is called Bangabandhu in Bangla. Right. He's called Bangabandhu in Bangla, the brother of all that is Bengali, right? Brother of Bengali people, Bangabandhu, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. He founded he founded one party known as Awami League, right? Awami League. The initial goal which that party had was to do good for people of Bangladesh. They once started with the idea of doing good for Bangladesh, right? And before he could do good for Bangladesh, he was killed, right? He was killed. Not only he was killed, Mujibur Rahman and his whole family was killed, right? There was a protest, there was a riot, a lot of rioters came to his place and they were all assassinated. Luckily, at that time, Sheikh Hasina was in Bangladesh. She was in London, not in Bangladesh. She was in London. She was studying along with her sister. So they both got saved, right? BNP got to power, right? BNP got to power. Sheikh Hasina still was still in London. So what happened with Sheikh Hasina? That BNP, the rule was so bad. Sheikh Hasina came back to power in Bangladesh. She started with noble goals, right? She wanted to do development. She wanted to further interest of Bangladesh, right? Development of Bangladesh was in mind of Sheikh Hasina. Now, what happened eventually? What happened eventually was she also did development of Bangladesh, right? After she came to power, there was a lot of development in Human Development Index. Bangladesh was ahead of India, right? In gender parity, Bangladesh was ahead of India. There was a lot of business that were coming to Bangladesh, and businesses big cloth market is there in Bangladesh. Zara, Gucci, Armani, Prada, all their clothes are sewn in Bangladesh, right? The cloth market of Dhaka is one of the biggest in the world, right? They are producers of clothes of the world. So what, right? In that situation, when there was a lot of growth, there was a lot of human development, all that is going on. What happens is that Awami League cannot right? Awami League got political challenges from Khalida Zia and her BNP, Bangladesh National Party. Right. Right. So Sheikh Hasina realized that I cannot do development if I don't have power. Right. And she changed the way she did politics. She brought reservation bill which triggered protest, and for perpetuation of power she wanted to do everything and anything she could. Right. So her party went for perpetuation of power, consolidation of power, but she failed and was overthrown. This is how this is how party politics works. Right. Party politics works. Right. This is how party politics works. And this is how, as Robert Mitchell explained, how political parties are there. They start with development and goals, and they end with the goal of perpetuation of power. So what is Iron Law of Oligarchy? Iron Law of Oligarchy simply says that power, and like money, power also get concentrated. To explain that, he studied functioning of socialist parties. Socialist parties start with noble goal of development of its people, equitable distribution of wealth, but eventually that goal turns to perpetuation of power, right? Like money, power also get concentrated. That is the core idea, right? That is the core idea. Okay, so right, this was Robert Mitchell's only theory which have not been falsified, which have not been falsified yet. There is not even one example in the world which suggests that power and money don't get concentrated. Right? There is not one example of political parties which eventually did not turn away from its goals and turn to perpetuation of power. Not even one. Because that is how politics is. You cannot change. You cannot change politics, right? Politics is like this only. Power politics is dirty, and politics is played like this only. So, iron law of oligarchy, right? Then we have to understand. Then we have to understand views of Raymond Aron. Views of Raymond Aron, right? In his book, The Opium of Intellectuals. The Opium of Intellectuals, right? Right. What what uh, what Raymond Aron suggests? What Raymond Aron suggests? Right? It is a similar to end of ideology thesis, right? It is similar to end of ideology thesis, whereby end of ideology suggests that irrespective of ideology, society moves in direction of bureaucratic, centralized bureaucracy and technocracy. Right? It is a similar concept to that, where he says that, irrespective, irrespective of socialism or liberalism, power lies with elite. Right? Power is going to lie with elite. Right? It does not matter which kind of system there is. Power will always lie with elite. Power will always lie with elite. But here he gives two major concepts, right? A concept of fractured elite and monolithic elite. Fractured elite and monolithic elite, right? So what is fractured? Fractured is somewhat broken, right? What is fractured? Let's suppose I have this bone. This bone, if has fractured, has multiple, right? This has multiple. There are multiple fault lines. Right? This is fracture. I can also explain this through tectonic plate theory. That there are multiple plates which move. Right? That is also fractured. So let's suppose I have this tile and I just hammered it multiple times. So this tile gets broken, right, in multiple pieces, right? This is fractured. What is monolithic? Monolithic, if you have gone through art and culture, uh, cave number 16, cave number 16 of Ellora is Kailash Nath temple, right? I am trying to explain meaning of the word fractured and monolithic. That is going to be helpful for us, right? Kailashnath temple of Ellora. It is carved from a single stone, and it was carved from top to down, right? So this is monolithic, right? A single entity is there, right? Single entity without any breakages, a single entity, right? This is what I mean by fractured and monolithic, right? What does it mean by fractured elite, right? Fractured elite means there are multiple elites, there are multiple elites which strive for power. So people in liberal democracies can choose who among the elite will rule them, right? But in socialist democracies, elite it is monolithic. Elite is singular block, right? There is only one block which rules over the people of socialist countries. So people have no say with respect to rulers, right? At least in democracies, at least in liberal democracies, we can play among elites and we can play the elites according to our needs. At right, in monolithic elite that is not the case, right? There are multiple people among whom you can choose, right? Let's suppose A, B, C, these three people are standing for MLA, right? For the seat of MLA, I am this voter. This person say that I will build a school for you, this person say that I will give you direct money, this person says that I will do community development around your area, this is promising school, this is promising direct benefit transfer, and this person is uh, community development, right? So there is a transaction of sort, right? If I choose community development, there is a transaction of sort that I will vote you, right? You get power, but I will also get something out of it. That is community development. So I can choose who will vote me. The elite is fractured, but in but in socialist countries, these are only one block, right? There is only Communist Party of China, CCP. CCP says that I am going to undertake this function, I have to accept it, I don't have a say in it, right? Monolithic, one party rule, one block which rules, right? In liberal democracies, elite is fractured, I can choose who will rule on me, right? Right? Very simple to understand. So these two concepts we have seen, this is elitist theory of democracy. All these four scholars, right? Four scholars that we have seen: Raymond Aron, Robert Michels, Mosca, and Pareto. This is elitist theory of democracy, right? As I was explaining, Aaron and Michels, that elite get to power, but there are some criterias according to elitist scholars for country to be democratic, right? Some criteria according to elitist scholars for a country to be democratic. Criteria for a country to be democratic. First criteria is that there should be competitive party system. I will explain this, do not worry, right? This idea is like this idea that there are multiple people for MLA who I will choose, is there is a competition among them, and free and fair elections. Free and fair elections. These are two criterias for two criterias which should be there for a country to be democratic. And elitist model is largely influenced by market model of democracy. Market model of democracy. It was given by Weber and Schumpeter. Weber and Schumpeter. Model of democracy sees politicians as entrepreneurs and voters as consumers, right? Voters as consumers. So entrepreneurs will present their product to consumers, that is voters, and voters will decide which product is is they want the most, right? The theory is very similar to economic theory of democracy by Anthony Downs, right? Economic theory of democracy of Anthony Downs, right? This is the idea. Very consumeristic idea. Elitist theory is very consumeristic idea that elite are in power, and for elite democracy to exist, there should be competitive party system and free and fair elections, and they see politicians as entrepreneurs and voters as consumers, right? In the last, we must see criticism, criticism by traditionalists. Traditionalists criticize elitist theory, right? Traditionalists criticized elitist theory to be behavioral, right? To be behavioral. They say behavioral theories will limit the scope of subject, and traditionalists like Mill and Lenin see their democracy for for substantive development. They take substantive view of democracy, right? They see democracy for empowerment, right? This is the idea. I hope you understood this, right? We have covered elitist theory of democracy. I hope you understood this. From the next lecture, I'll start with pluralist theory of democracy.